Good morning, guys. Give me just 1 second. We'll be up and running. There we go. Get rid of this. Get this down. And let's get started. My name is Simon. I'm a TRADENPERFORM coaching. Today is the 14th of May. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Let's see if there's anything else. You can lose a lot of money trading futures. Make sure you have a risk trading plan in place. The idea here is that I'm sharing my trade plan with you. However, my trade plan does not work for everybody. I do not suggest you follow me blindly, but instead take the time to learn what it is that I do. Take what you like, leave the rest, and trade profitably. That would be my suggestion. Manage risk. Always manage risk. And then, so let's jump into it from there. That's all we need to see with this. Gone. And all right, we are gapping up relatively nicely, up 56 on NQ, up 14 on ES, CL's up 54 cents. Kind of a risk on picture after yesterday's drubbing. No surprise there. Let's get into picking out the charts and putting them in the right place. Let's see this. And I need, don't need that, don't need that. I do need this. We'll start with CL today. So obviously, pretty damn wide-ranging bar. But if you look at the chart, and here we're going to do this while we I'll be a little bit quicker. And while we do this, or while that loads, we'll do this, and let's just fix yesterday's chart up. Let's see, boing, doing. Okay, well, there's quite a bit of, it's quite the day. We swept, all we did was we swept the balance range. See that? We're making lower lows, lower highs on the daily. But then look at it from this perspective, right? So there's a couple of things you want to keep your eye on. First of all, from that swing low to this swing high, right? So this is the swing low right here. Way back. Okay, so if we pull those two things all together, spread this out a bit, and we push this down. See, they're going to make me do the work on both sides. That's approximately it. Okay, so there we go. So roughly 50, 60 back is sitting all the way the hell like here. So why do I bring that up? It's a long way away. Two reasons. Number one, we're at 61.54. 55 isn't that far away. That's the 50 retrace off the big picture swing low to the big picture swing high, right? Two things. A, it's not bearish unless we get underneath that 52. A 50-60 is totally normal in the bigger picture of things, right? Intraday, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Markets like to retrace, okay? So it doesn't mean that they will retrace or if there's any requirement that they do. It's more of a rule of thumb. A, I expect responsive buyers between 55 area and 52 area, right? First time in, great location. You should have it in big, bold letters on the top of your trade plan every day if you're trading CL. Hey, I want the location here. Next, even though we swept the range, did we do any damage? No, look, we didn't close. When you open this up, all right? we didn't close underneath anything. We had a low close, right? But we didn't break the swing low. As a matter of fact, they held, right? So you'd think at least we got to get underneath here to come and examine these support areas underneath. We haven't done that, so therefore I can stay pretty neutral on whether I'm bullish or bearish. All it's doing is sweeping the range, and we're just trading through a wide range. So the next thing that I want to look at is, well, where's my critical areas? Where's my critical areas? So one more piece. And let's go do some drawing really quick. Low. It's a poor low, by the way. Not horribly, but it's a poor low. Prior day's high. Massive range. Usually when you have a massive range the following day, while there's no rule that says it has to be, quite often it's you end up with an inside day as we repair the chart, right? So then we look at where the critical areas are. So the volume build sitting up all the way up here at 63 and all the way down here at 60.96, and it's pretty shaky on everything in between. So number one, how do I resolve this? Well, number one, I'd expect it to be choppy in the 6111 area. Why? Because it's the prior days, less than 24 hours old, volume point of control and TPO point of control. Okay. Number two, I expect that this completes the auction up on top. It becomes a white zone. Okay. An over under at that location sets up a really great short. Over under means it trades underneath, rejects, gets above, hopefully holds on the backside test, then gets underneath, backside tests it, and rolls. So it would look something like this. It could just do this, but usually what it does is this, gets on top, everyone gets bullish, backside test, usually holds the first time, gets underneath, backside test to here, and then flushes. That would be the idea, right? Now, if it gets on top and holds and consolidates, then you get a push to higher prices, right? So with that being said, that's a key area for me, and I'm looking for setups in that area. Okay, so the only challenge here is if I was going to try to establish a trade out of this white zone, so this is where you come in and put this in your notes. The volume build's actually in the back around 63.20. I base my zones based off the anomalies on TPO, but you have to acknowledge that there's a volume build behind that from the volume profile. So I would shoot towards, if I was going to just not wait for the over under, I would shoot for the back of that zone is what I would do. So next, this is a valid location because it's at a prior day's value area high, and it's a valid anomaly. There's no volume build there, but it is a valid location. This is questionable. Sorry, you hear my dog and my children going nuts upstairs. I'll pass shortly. This, I don't know what to do with this. It's a valid anomaly. It's just blue, but it's in the middle of all this crap here to the left. So I don't automatically want to trade there. As a matter of fact, I prefer to stay out of it completely if I can, unless I get a very high odds intraday setup off the anomaly and off the algos and just in my oscillator. I prefer to stay out of this in general. This stays blue, but so I don't want to add another color, but you're likely to get a response out of this, right? And you want to watch, so on that 6111, 6093, either watch for the response right out of it, or in particular, the trap underneath prior day's low and then getting back above this and backside testing it, watch it for a push back up. It's going to stay blue because it's the prior day's point of control. It's going to be chopping that area, but an over under in that area could set up a very nice push back to the upside. I expect us just to spend the day filling in this area right in here and smoothing out the curve. It would look something like this. Let's see where we had a thin, wide-ranging day. So like this. So see here how on the 426, how we had the hole right in the profile, and we spent most of the day just filling in that hole between the prior day's point of control down here and the hole up on top, and we just spent the whole day balancing in between. Great example, right? So it's kind of what I expect if we get under or over it. Different story. There's nothing that says it can't mirror image it either, but it's probably just going to fill in the hole is what it's probably going to do. So expect chop, balance, and scalps as opposed to big ranging trades, right? So at any rate, long story short, that's what I'm expecting on CL. Let's go get the chart posted up really quick here. So the chart ends up looking like this. Hopefully. or not. Let's see. We're going to go with an or not on that one. So let's do this. And then chart number 18, chart. Okay, that should now look correct. Blue, blue, blue. Oh, and then there's one more piece to pay attention to, which is the 50-60 of yesterday's range, right? Is obviously key area. I'm going to throw up just a little gray zone in that. Okay. Expect, so again, it's a choppy area, but you know that some traders are just going to be looking for that 50-60 retrace to reject off of. So now that that's all clarified, that's what the zones end up looking like with a 5-minute chart. There's prior day's high, prior day's low, and the zones in between. And I think that covers quite a bit of territory right there. So I'm going to do it like this. Capture that zone right underneath. There we go. We're going to do edit, chart BMP, and file, save as. CL0514. There we go. So the other thing I want to note, if y'all trade NQ or ES, it moved really fast in the first 30 minutes of the day yesterday. If you're not like mega fast on the control panel there, it was easier in the afternoon. I would have I had a down day yesterday. I would have ended up with an update if I just skipped the first hour. Just food for thought on that. Let's see here. And still have 2-year-olds in the house. Okay, guys, if you look on the Slack channel, CL for Tuesday, tomorrow's inventory day. That's the only other thing that's up there. And then there's rig count tonight. I think at 3 o'clock or 3:30, one of the two, Central Time. So that's the story there. Plug this chart in down here. And I highly recommend you have a 5-minute chart up so that you can see where your key levels are. Let's go look at NQ really quick. This is NQ from yesterday. Okay, so before I go and change it, you can see that we rejected out of this zone. So see how this zone traded over and under? Excuse me, I apologize. I'll take a quick sip. And you can see once this area could have been easily traded through, it just ran out of energy. It was too big a stretch, right? We were down 300 points, but that's where I wanted the long. We didn't get it from there. We obviously rare close on the low of the day. And I would have really liked to been able to reach down into that 72.40. It was just too far. So, but you can see we come up into resistance. This is the open. See how we come off just to the tick off the bottom of the zone. Come up into resistance. They attempted above the high, trap back in, never backside tested it. Come back into the zone. They attempt to hold the support zone, fails. Remember, these are 5-minute bars. Doesn't quite make it down to support. Notice when it does make it to support, you get numerous attempts out of that location in this support area. These are valuable areas because look how long it holds for. If you're placing your trade in this location, right, you're going to have a easier time getting a counter rotation. Not every time it can fail, right? But even once you realize that it has failed, the backside tests tend to work pretty well. And you can see even here, once we got underneath, the backside test did reject. We get above, backside test held, rotated up. I mean, that became a pretty important area. You can see that we're trading above. And my guess is the first time in the 73.40, there's going to be an attempt to get a responsive buy out of that area today. We'll go look at what the profile looks like here in a moment. So that's my 2 cents there. So let's go, and now that we have that, let's go fix the chart up. Thank you, profile. Clean it up. Okay. Chop. Great target, horrible place to start a trade. Okay, and if you look, see how there's nothing up here? Excuse me a second. I don't know why I'm having a hard time, but I am. My allergies. Okay, see how we're, okay, I missed something. Right. As a valid location. And then I'm going to make this blue specifically right here. Okay, there's nothing else there. So it's less than a blue zone. There's not an anomaly there or anything to work off of, but there's a volume build there. And usually you'll get rejection out of that area. So that becomes a light blue zone. Just be aware. So the market needs to repair this part of the chart, right? There's clearly a low volume node right in that 7,400 to 7,420 with a volume build at 7,433. That 7,433, if I was going to choose an area out of this area, that's what I would choose. And it's going to have a good setup, hopefully some divergence in that area to get set up. But that would be what that would be my upside target. And let's see how to fix this. This becomes yellow. Oh, something's wrong there. Really? There we go. And let's see up above. All that is fine. Go. My guess is we spend time filling this in or attempting to fill this in today. If we get underneath, so this is a double swing low. If you look back to the left, going back I think to March. Oh, there you go. That was a double swing low going back to March 26th, right? So you're likely, if we get down into this area, to get a response, particularly if we can break it and recapture it for a push back up. And these are valid anomalies. There's a huge problem if we get underneath 71.83. There's a big vacuum all the way down to 69.98. I don't suspect that's going to happen today at least. But hey, we're in an anything goes environment. So there you have it. I don't think we're going to do it. I'm not worried about getting underneath. But if you take away another 300 points, that puts us at 7,000, right? 70,070. So it's possible. So at any rate, I'd be concerned if we got underneath 71.73 with any long attempts. The setup would have to be really, really good. Give me just a second, guys. Okay, so let's go. Wow, I hope I'm not losing my voice. Hold on. There we go. I apologize again. So let's get these zones posted up. We need quite a bit. We'll just keep this to this. That should cover us for enough locations. You can see we're opening right into that anomaly. Prior day's point of control, volume build, low volume area, traded through pretty easily yesterday. So let's get that posted. All right, there's NQ. Now let's go do CL really quick. Drag this back down. Again, I would encourage y'all to put the levels up on the screen so you can see what the heck's going on, where the key levels are. We're opening right up into that 73.73 to 73.85 anomaly. Expect an attempted rejection out of there unless we clear straight out of there, right out of the gate. Right, so we are gapping. So again, I'll leave the first 30 minutes alone and let them do what they have to do. Let's go fix ES. So here's ES chart from yesterday. Again, you can see the location helped you find counter rotations. I was pretty bad about actually using that to help me find good locations. And you can see that blue zone. This is on a huge stretch, so they use that zone as support, right? And then you can see when we came back up, we danced around this. We ended up dancing around this anomaly. But again, if you placed your trades in these locations, you had a much easier time finding P&L. So the deal is line up the signals with the zones, right, to where it makes sense, and use the proper stops. So let's go fix this up really quick. My guess is you've buried a lot of people short yesterday, and you've shaken out a lot of longs. People usually get pretty bearish when the market gets like this, and so my guess is they're going to squeeze them pretty hard at some point today. Why? Oh, I know why. Timeout. Wrong chart. Don't. A lot of weird volume distribution through here on the profile, right? Pronounced low volume node right in front of the anomaly. Expect a response out of that. Okay, I'll tell you where that is. I don't like to mark up my charts with every little part, but right there at 28.15.75, you may not make it to the zone. It may get front run off that low volume node right there. So just be aware. Anomaly. I'm going to make the anomaly like this because the volume builds back here, right? And potential, but there's no anomaly, but that's where the volume build is up there. I think everything else stays the same. Okay, so this is just anomaly landmine city right here. If I was going to put a zone in, there'd be a light blue zone right there based off the volume and the TPO. And that's a stretch, so it may work. I'm going to opt for this instead of this. So I'm not going to put a zone here. Just be aware there's an anomaly up there at 28.55. I mean, this 510 was just strewn with anomalies. So you have to be kind of selective as to what you're going to pick. Would really like to try to get a short off up here, but we'll see if it can make it there. Let's see. Okay, so that light blue zone down there at 27.54, right? It's a huge stretch. So it goes to yellow from blue, light blue. But if we were close to it, it would go back to light blue. meaning on the open, but it's such a far stretch, it's likely to get a response. Okay, so that's the only change downstairs, and let's hope we're not having to deal with that today. Everything else looks okay. That's very attractive right in this area. Okay, that's that. That translates into this, maybe. Maybe. Let's see. There we go. That translates into this. You can see, unless we get underneath that anomaly, this, what's the yellow line? Should be green. There we go. Then we'll just pull this in like this. Hope that covers everything. Otherwise, I'll post as necessary. And then on the Slack channel, and my guess would be inside day with balance. That's not a very big guess. That's usually what you get 8 times out of 10 after a big down day like we had yesterday. And hold on, I just got to fix my charts up down here. So I have them. There's a yes. Thank you. Thank you is now underneath that anomaly. And now I have CL up as well. Okay, so now I want to show y'all something now that we're done with all the technical stuff. Okay, so I want to show you something here on NQ when we're looking for the setups, right? Okay, so assuming you have location or you don't have location, I want to show you something. Let's do it with CL first, okay? So see yesterday morning on CL. Well, hell, we had it this morning. We don't even need yesterday morning, right? Okay, see on the map. So this is a customized MACD is all it is. Okay, so see over here, you have the cross down, right? Clearly, so the best, I'm trying to show you what the best setups end up looking like. Okay. See the clear divergence you have through there? Okay, now notice, it doesn't always work perfectly, right? But so this is the algo firing. So it's a speed bar, it's a fractal, right? And the shift. It's telling us all in one location, right? Telling us all in one location. Here's the flip right on this bar right here, right? That right there, this setup, okay, divergence, speed bar, fractal, shift, flip. That is one of the best setups I have, right? So that setup right there did not result in a huge roll to the downside, right? But it did result in if you ended up entering this trade at 615, right? Your risk was 61.68 to a couple pennies above 61.82, so less than 20 cents of risk, right? And you had a maximum favorable excursion of 61.58, only a dime there, right? So you go, well, Simon, did it work or did it not work? Look what happens when we come up now and swing all the way to a new high with an even bigger divergence. So you don't get the speed bar, but you do get a fractal shift down, and that purple bar is another way of indicating where energy is being released, right? There's your flip on that bar right there. Again, same risk, 61.88. right? So let's call it 61.87, and let's call it your stop at 62.02. Still 15 cents a stop, and now this time you roll down from 61.88 all the way down, maximum favorable excursion down to 61.49 or areas lower. What's key when you're setting those pieces up? What's key in there, right? And what's key in those locations is the actual setup. Now, yesterday, the shorts and the longs there failed. I want to show you the difference between today and yesterday. See these setups here, even though you don't have divergence? Okay, number one, the risk. Sorry, I ADD'd on y'all. 61.88 all the way down to 61.52. It's a damn good trade, and it pays you almost immediately in each case, right? Very little stress. Now, what's the difference between today and yesterday? See how you get all these speed bar shift up, and they're all paying 10 cents through here, right? Even the fractal shift up is paying a little. These were all failing yesterday. Why? We were clearing the range, right? There's absolutely nothing you can do when we start clearing through a range. It didn't matter whether you had divergence on those if you're using them as scalps. So there's two ways to approach it. Some people, like Daniel, it's a great example, right? He's hunting this pattern, and then he's attacking these particular algo patterns that are firing off for shorts to the downside. The same concept applies to ES, NQ, CL, doesn't matter, right? Now, for me, I'm looking for these, right? But I'm also willing to take these for scalps. These shifts up, I'm willing to take these for scalps. I'm all right with taking the stops. So what's the price that I pay when I'm wrong? I'll have a day like yesterday where I took two 20-cent stops, right? Because of the speed, the stops expanded, right? The bars were completely on top of each other or completely below each other. So see how, what I mean by that is, see how these bars are kind of merging into one another to a certain degree? Yesterday, they were just all stacked like that. One bar was completely cleared below the other bar. It adds about a nickel to 7 cents to the trade in terms of risk. And when you take two stops, it adds up to 40 cents pretty damn quickly, right? So the stop goes from 12 to 15 cents to about 20 cents. Took two stops back to back on what otherwise were high odds scalps. So here's the other part that I was telling that's very, very important. So if you read the book Thinking in Bets by, I forget who the author is. She's really good. Annie Duke. Okay, Annie Duke talks about, are you going to have results-based conclusions or process-based conclusions, right? And I said yesterday, I don't care if I get stopped because I can come in most days and take all those setups and I come out way, 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 way ahead in the game, right? But yesterday was a day where it didn't work. Now, I have one or two conclusions. I can go, that doesn't work, and I'm never doing that again because the stops sucked, and I hate stops. And I actually have coached people that are actually allergic to stops, right? They cannot process the fact that in the course of normal trading, they will have a stop, and the stop completely freezes them and throws them 100%. They lose faith in their process. They want to engineer their entire process to eliminate all stops. That's their complete and total objective, right? I don't. Okay, I want to make that really clear. I think stops are part of the process, and I think they're okay. I don't like them. I get frustrated, right? But I know that if I'm going to scalp, I know if I'm going to take this speed bar fractal shift right here that occurs right in this area, right? I know that I have massive divergence on the left, right? So if I choose to take this, I'm taking it in the face of divergence over here, right? I know I have to be Johnny on the spot, get this trade, and I'm probably kicking it out for a dime, right? And then I can also probably come back right in here because of the divergence and take that trade right there. But that's a different level of thinking, right? So how do you, if I was going to eliminate my trades or my stops, or I wanted to cut down on the number of stops, right? This is what I would do. I would only trade in the direction of the divergence and only setup I would take, right? So there is a way to do it so that I don't get bone crushed. And the way to do it so that I wouldn't get bone crushed would be this. I'd wait for the divergences on the edges, right? Number two, I would only take a fractal and a shift down, a variation of that. So every trade I would take would always look like this, and it would always be in the direction. It would always be in the direction of the divergence until I got set up with another divergence to take me to the other location, right? And or it would always set up with a key location on the chart, right? Like, for example, if we look at CL right now, Okay, see how I don't automatically want to take this area? It's a light blue area. I'm going to fix the chart here. There we go. It's a light blue area. All of this is a light blue area. This is the 50-60 from the prior day. It's likely to get tested, right? But as we pushed up, I can see off to the left. See how we had structure over here? You want to know why it's bouncing back? Because look, they tried to hold it here. You can see from the wicks, people got trapped, right? They tried to reverse it. It rolled lower, right? So then when I come over here, so that's one picture, right? So then when I come over here, right? So understand, if you're in my room and I'm telling you what trades I'm taking, I'm trying to take all of this, right? I'm pretty comfortable flipping back and forth. Doesn't bother me in the least to take a long in the face of divergence. Just doesn't throw me, right? I know sometimes I'll get smoked. That's okay, right? But if it bothers you, what you're waiting for, right? Pulling the picture is a couple of things. First of all, you can look for a fractal trend line break, right? So I'm trying to help people out who are getting flustered because not everyone can or wants to trade like me, right? Fractal trend line breaks, speed bar shift down, divergence, right? And then the last piece you're plugging in, what does it take to go lower? There's your last wave up. So look at what that wave. Here's the big push, 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 push. Finally, in duration, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you get the biggest push right on top, divergence in the oscillator, right? Over here, you had fractal speed bar shift down. That was a clue, and you had to get underneath this last shift up. It worked. It didn't work for a lot. And then it comes back and creates an even bigger divergence on top, right? And what did you have here? You had a speed bar, fractal, shift up right at the high, right? So remember, these aren't telling you it's long or short. What these bars are telling you is where there's been a big push and an expansion of energy, is all these bars are telling you. They're not telling you, hey, buy me here. They're not telling you, hey, sell me here. They're telling you, picture it as a heat map of physics works good with this, but a heat map of where energy is being expanded and contracted, right? So no energy, no energy, no energy, no energy, right? Energy is expanded. They're trying to reverse it here. Energy is expanded. They're trying to push it here. You got a fractal, shift down, purple bar, which is another example of where they flip on the bid. It's a very strong combination right there, right? And then there, in each case, it gives you a roll to the downside, right? So I can choose, if I'm trading this, I can go, hey, I'm underneath my last push up. So I know I need two things in order to make this work. Number one, see how I'm just building the chart, building the chart, building the chart. So I understand what the market's trying to do. Top, that's the mid, the last wave up. Notice how that becomes resistance on the top. See that? Over here, I'm going to cut this off. Okay, that becomes resistance on the back side. If I get another fractal, shift down, or speed bar, shift down, fractal, right? So in this case, it just gave a shift down and a push, shift down and pushed, right? So now when you look, when it comes back around, see how right now we're spending our energy trying to get above that mid, right? Here's where people have trouble. That's a bunch of pieces you're trying to put in. So how do I melt that down so that I have an easier choice? Well, first of all, this is just going on in the background for me, right? So I know as we pushed into this low right here, so push into this low, I can see clearly that we had divergence, right? Why? Because I can draw the line, right? I just take the time. Draw the line. Draw the line. By definition, divergence. Number two, push up, last push down, last major push down. Notice this last major push down, I'm counting anything over three bars is the last push down, right? So that goes over here to here. What has to happen? I need to get above the mid of that bar. And then I'm coming back over here, right? Because I'm always checking up on the 5 minute and going, what do we have to get above or below? So my key locations are all the way down here and all the way up here. So I've got nothing from a day time frame standpoint to lean against here. This is all crap. Maybe this 50-60 if we could get up into it, right? Maybe. Depends on how weak we are. Okay, so next, as I'm looking, there's divergence. I don't have a fractal trend line break. See how we're completely devoid of the fractals, right? So I do have a shift down, right? I have my last push to the downside, and I have my mid right here. Odds are backside test of that mid is going to get rejected the first time. So see how we now got above the mid right here? And so now I get a speed bar fractal, but no shift up. There's no trade for me here, right? I want to repeat that. There's no trade for me here because I didn't get the shift up. Now, I could have taken this right here, right? And then I need to figure out where I'm going to put my stop, which would be behind this 50 retrace, right? But now I'm competing with. So now think about what you're competing through here. Now take a zoom back. You had your biggest push off here to the left, which you have to keep up with, and your biggest push down here. This is your biggest push to the downside by definition. So two things occur here. Notice how I'm stringing this all together into one thought process, right? So I'm going to go from here, this bar, to this bar right here. Click. Okay, so on this push down, what do I know about this push down? So now I'm going to separate it from the smaller waves to the bigger waves, and I'm going to notice the divergence that I had here, right? And I'm going to go, if we're going to push higher so that we can make it to the 50-60 on top, I'm going to have to get past the mid of that zone. So see how I'm zooming back out? I'm not trying to make any decisions here. Notice none of this has gone, that's a trade for me, right? All of this has gone to, that's what has to happen, right? We have to get above that 6180. Why? It's the mid of the biggest push down. See how we rejected out of there repeatedly? And I didn't have another big wave on the bottom to really work off of. I didn't get underneath that wave, push down, create a new wave, and then get on top of it. But I also know if I get on top of this 62 right here, right? 62 pushes me into the 50-60, and I'm probably going to push back to that 62.31 because if you remember from the profile, that's where the volume build is, right? And what's the market doing overall is the other question. So remember, we had a big wide-ranging day. What does the market like to do after a wide-ranging day? It chops and balances, right? So you get all this stuff starting to stack up all on top of each other. But notice once I'm looking at everything and how I want to trade, right? I'm not trading the location. So see this here? Fractal shift down out of the mid of this wave. Yeah, I'd probably take that on this push up. I don't have a cross yet, right? But I would probably attempt this. And where am I going to put my stop? Well, I'm not going to put my stop right on top of this fractal. I'm going to put it right behind the 50-60 of this because I already know from drawing the waves so many times that that's where the resistance is. I'd be an idiot to put the stop 1 penny right in the middle of that mid of that wave because I know it's likely to reject. I want it behind the wave. And notice it didn't get above it to the tick at all, right? So then look off to the left. What's my next challenge? This over here to the left. I know a lot of lines are getting on here, which is why some people like to break this all down into separate pieces or separate charts, right? So what's my next challenge? Okay, when I look at that wave, go back and look. Where's your biggest pushes? So notice when we rolled over yesterday, right? See how we got underneath these two big pushes? I'm pointing right here. See this? This and this. See what we got? So that's roughly this. That's what released to the downside, right? So see this big push right here? I'm going to have a big line underneath that. Now, getting underneath that by itself does not guarantee a big push to the downside, but it's a start. It's what's got to start to get it, right? So I'm going to make that yellow warning. Next, what do I want to know? Just like every other time, where's the mid of that wave? Because if I don't get below the mid, I've got zero chance of rolling to the downside, right? So that wave goes right here. That goes right here. Guess what I expect when we hit that the first time, that 6120? Even without the chart or looking what's at the chart, I expect a response out of the mid of that. I know that I've got to hold up underneath. If we get underneath that 6120, I've got a clue. Let me show you how that works that we're going to roll down. So I'm going to go back and do yesterday's really quick. And I'm going to do that by duplicating this chart. And it works the same on all the charts. I'm going to erase all the lines. And I'm going to draw it back. to yesterday. Okay, massive pushes up, right? So I'm going to mark them out. I'm going to go, hey, look at that, right? Again, the mid of that, notice you never get a negative bar with a point of control underneath. Speed bar, fractal, shift up, pop, right? That's at 7:51 in the morning, okay? Why is this? That is not correct. Oh, no, it is. I'm sorry. I stand corrected, okay? But, and notice over here, prior high, new high. See that? So see how we had a new high right there? Notice where the divergence came in right over here. See that? I was busy yapping like I am right now, but that's all right. Okay. So we come all the way over. I'm trying to show you so you can build. Look how much work is going in to build a thought process on this, right? And I know in order to release, I've got to get below here. Okay. But then I get another giant wave, right? Right here. And that goes from here to here. And this wave is even more giant, right? Whatever you want to call it, gianter, right? So then you bring it. Now notice the bottom of this wave and the mid of the prior wave line up. See that? So now I know if I probably get underneath here, I probably have a go to the downside, right? So again, I'm doing this really slowly because when you're trading three, right? If I'm just trading one market, this is easier. If I'm trading three and trying to do this and it's moving fast, I can't. That's all there. It's a good way to put it is I can't, right? I tried to do it yesterday. The speed increased dramatically. I paid the price, right? So when I slow down, right, I know this is a key area. Okay, next. Notice on here, there's no fractal or speed bar shift down in sequence, right? So come over here. Now, notice the new high. New high. Notice the divergence, right? Huge divergence. 3 up, right? As denoted, the computer's keeping track of it. There's the close underneath, right? So your target, if you'd shorted this, would have been that 62.80, which would have been the mid. Now look how the market just plays that out. Bounce, right? Front run, bounce again. Underneath the mid of the first wave, right? So then we're going to come to the mid. This is your really critical level right here, right? Because it's the mid of the prior big wave and it's the base of the prior wave. Notice the close. See how over here we couldn't get a close with a bar underneath the mid of this wave? Notice this bar right here because this bar changes the character on everything. All right, now watch. Fractal, shift down, purple bar. It's a pretty powerful combination. You can't let it get back above 62.60 is the key on that, right? And it's all over from there. See that? So I didn't get smoked beyond that. I think that's where I took my last stop was right in here. Was right in this area right here where I was trying to, what was I trying to get to work? I take it back. I was down a little bit further. I took a second stop in here somewhere. Okay. But my point is, actually, I took my stop before 10 o'clock. So I have to think why I took that stop because I goofed it. The point is, see how much time and work I put into just getting that sequence. It already happened. It wasn't even in real time, right? But it all laid out for me so that I understood what I was looking for. Divergence was the big key there. New high, massive divergence. Fractal trend line break over here. final speed bar shift up. We got behind it, which gave a shift down. Tested the mid of the last big wave up, got underneath, retested the base and the mid of the first wave up. And once we were underneath that, right, the next piece was to get underneath that wave, and there was nothing underneath. And that is the anatomy of a market that falls apart very, very quickly. Now, it's rare, right? It doesn't happen like that very often, but when it does, it's huge. And then you'll notice here as we're diverging into this low, see over here when we're diverging into the lows between 10 and 11 o'clock, right? Notice that now, without going through all the work, notice now that the speed bar shifts up or pain, right? You don't get one here. Speed bar shifts up, pain, right? Speed bar shift up. Well, that was pretty hard, but that was right on the close, so I don't trade that anyways. But these start paying now once you get the divergence on the other end of the range. So the divergence is important. The wave is important. The mid of the big waves is important. But more importantly, just slowing down and drawing that out in whatever market you're trading, right? Or you can do it like me. Most of the time, if I don't do all of that work, I can just go fractal, speed bar, shift up, long, stop right below, and I can usually eyeball it and get it right. But there's days like yesterday where I will get it wrong. Okay. So the whole goal here, is to figure out who you are as a trader, what you can do well, what you don't do well. And then when you have a thesis, let that thesis play out for you. Okay. So that you know how to trade it the way you are comfortable. Okay. That is the only way to make this trading work. I need to close this. Is the only way to make trading work long term. Okay. So let's just take a quick look at where we're at right now. So we can draw the pieces together. So for this morning, right, I had divergence up here. We got the roll down. It's been absorbed. This is the biggest wave down. We haven't gotten over the mid of that, right? When I look at a 5-minute chart, I know, what do I know? That 50-60 is damn likely to get retested, and we're balancing, right? I can see the bars are all folding over one another, right? So for yesterday, for the guy or the gal who made 100 ticks in one direction or the other, and they think, oh, this is great, it's going to do it again, right? And they keep trying to get location here. They're just getting chopped, right? So for me, I think this is great. I can scalp this all day long. I'm very happy in this environment, right? When I look at it, I know if I get what I have to get above right now. I want to see us get above the mid of this 6180, or, right, I'd like to see us push down into the mid of this wave right here, get divergence as we push into this wave and get a speed bar, fractal up. So I'm going to hunt that 6120 area, right? And I would prefer what? Not to get a point of control behind. Again, I'm on a 7 range bar here, okay? And then I'd like to see it push up. And B, or my second choice is get above 6180, let it backside test, find the long from that, and push. And if I can get above 62, I know my target from 62 can be at 6130, or I can grab this yellow zone if I'm lucky from 62.52 to 62.89 and 62.69, or the white zone above, right? Those are my targets higher, and look for shorts out of this location, and particularly out of that 63, right? If it'll set up. But in the meantime, I'm cognizant, hey, we're just folding one bar over the other. Also, since we've opened, we haven't filled the gap. We haven't filled half, maybe we filled half gap. Let's look. From settle, we haven't hit half gap yet. All right, so that's the other thing to keep an eye on. And then from yesterday's swing low, which I think is the more important draw, to today's high, right? That's the next location or audible location I keep up with. That probably gets a response. No, that's not right. It's from here to here. 6120 to 6110 probably gets a response. First time in, it's the 50-60 from yesterday's low to today's current high. And you can see it's just having trouble with the structure over here to the left, right? So it's a lot of work doing one market. So if you're doing 2 or 3 markets like I am, right, it's more work, right? And you have to train your brain to get quick enough to go through it, or just do one market, make money in the one market. There's certainly nothing wrong with that thought process, right? Anyways, that's my 2 cents about that. And I would have higher range bar charts on there as well, but that's a different story. Okay, and let's just go take a quick look at ES and NQ. So on NQ, you can see there was the biggest wave down, right? Almost immediately, easy to see of the US session. So I'm going to do the same work I always do. Let's erase all lines. Right, we get above that, probably off to the races. Below that. So you can see we're already above mid, right? So if I get speed bar, fractal, shift down, right? That's a pretty good set for me. But see how it's already flipped over here on the oscillator? Not a trade, right? I want speed bar, shift, flip to the downside to come afterwards. Like, kind of like over here. No, 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 no. Like this. I bet it didn't come in a quick sequence, but dun, dun, dun. The flip didn't come till all the way over here, but that's what I'm looking for. I'd rather just have it in one tight sequence, but if I wanted to short there, I didn't have any divergence, but that would have been my short, right? And if you look into the high, it repeats. See, you got it over here at 5 in the morning, right? You pushed all the way up. There's your biggest push, right? You can see the delta's diverging, right? You can see the oscillators diverging. There's your new high. There's your speed bar, fractal, shift down, no flip, right? Speed bar, fractal, shift, flip right here. All three of them come together. That is where I'd want to be short from. And you can see you got paid pretty damn nicely from that trade, right? So that's what we're looking for today. So you don't have to take every trade or every scalp that I'm taking. You can simply look and go, hey, where's the clear divergence? And notice when they're clear, it's not like really a very big question mark. Like you can see it, right? Like there's not even there wasn't like well, maybe it's divergence. Like it was like, damn, that's divergence, right? So you don't have to put it in a magnifying glass and go, maybe, right? And then once you're getting the divergence off the high or the low, then you're looking for your fractal shift, right? And sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, right? And there's all kinds of combos that work between the algo and the chart and the levels that we're looking for. But I'm looking for a specific combo, right? And the very best combo, I'm trying to pound this for guys in the room, fractal, shift, speed bar, flip on the oscillator. That is what I am looking for. I don't want to leave I don't want to be obtuse about it at all. That is what I'm looking for. I'm willing to take my stops on those trades. It pays me almost, not every day, but almost every time, right? Yet days like yesterday being the exception. And that's my 2 cents. Other than that, it's pretty damn straightforward. Let's go look at ES really quick. Show the picture's the same here at 5 in the morning. Clear divergence. Oh, wait, same chart. Why do I have 2 charts? Oh, because this is ES. Got it. I think I need to erase some of the lines I've drawn on here. Let's spread that out a little bit. No delta on top. See that? No big waves. No, that's your last big push all the way over here. There's just nothing on top. There's your divergence. So see, this is flat divergence here. It made a slightly higher high. No fractal speed bar shift over here. See that? There's your fractal shift, but right at the peak, it already flipped, right? But if you look over here, see how the oscillator came all the way back around on divergence. Then you finally get here. It just didn't line up. I wouldn't have had that. right? I would have wanted it to line up right here and it didn't. So I would have had the short on ES, right? And then you can see when we push down into the low, see how the divergence reversed over there at 747, right? So let me show you that, right? New low, right? Delta divergence and the new low. Big push. You got to get above the mid of this wave. Over here to the left. See on the backside test how it rejects the first time, right? So you come up. This is too late to take. See, you had fractal shift, but speed bar, but the flip didn't come all the way. It already tested the bottom and into divergence, right? And then you get speed bar, fractal, shift up right here, and the flip comes right on this right here. Now that is a reasonable stop. That trade right there, your stop goes 1 point behind. Your entry on that bar was this, at 28, 21.75. Your stop could be 1 point behind here. So 28, 19.50 right there. And look at the RR back into the mid. That's the second test on the mid. Pushes through. You don't get a flip. You don't get a reversal. You get no kind of reversal signal. And then it pushes up right off the open all the way to 28.32. That, right, is a great setup for ES. Right. So now when I'm looking at it, we haven't pushed to a new high. I don't have either what I'd call local divergence or wide divergence. I do have divergence on delta, but that's not enough. Right. I need to offset these here real quick. Hold on a second here. Still not enough. I'll fix it. Let's see something here. That was such a hard time, but we'll double it. Still nothing. Son of a gun. Okay, that's fine. I'll get it fixed. At any rate, long story short, Bill. Got it. Thank you, Bill. Ha! In business. Okay. Okay. Save all. There we go. Okay, now I can see it. So now I know I'm above the mid, right? So that's my last push down right there on ES, right? So I can go back and do the work. Right. Last push down, right? Now here's the mid of the last push down. We get a yellow line. See how we got above, backside tested, and I still don't have a speed bar fractal shift up. So what would I like to see now? I'd like to see this roll back down into this, right? Give me a divergence down here of some sort. Give me a speed bar fractal shift up and flip over here on the book right here to take the long. Mostly what we have is we're in balance, right? It's not going anywhere. See this? People are trying to push it up, push it down. This is just chop and balance, right? That's all it is. There we go. So we haven't filled the gap. We've held, we're pushing up towards the high. This should be able to be traded through, right? And it looks like we're going to try and trade that 28.37 intraday high from yesterday, right? At least they're going to try. So I'm just monitoring, looking for divergences, looking for those speed bar shifts, right, on ES, NQ, and CL. And if you can't do all three, my suggestion to you is just do one and get good at one, right? I'm willing to do all three. That's me, right? And again, see this, I just saw something though. So see this right here, speed bar, fractal pink bar, which is again another expression of energy being expanded, right? And then flip up right here. If I'm uber aggressive and I'm willing to take the stop, that's okay. In this case, I'm not, right? I'm not sure what the market's going to do. And I wanted to take it easy today and ease into my trades to make sure I had a good setup. I suspect everything was just going to go into balance today was my suspicion, continues to be my suspicion, right? I know I'm about the mid of this wave and I get on top of that. I'm looking for pushes back down into this to grab the long, right? I want this to reset and then I want my normal setup, right? So see how right here, if I'm uber aggressive, right? So see how it already flipped positive, came back in, fractal, speed bar, shift up. Probably not going to take it because I'm just not in the trading mode right now. Long, right there. So this would be my long, 73, 84, 75. My stop would be about, so my entry would have been, I'll just call it 86. I probably would have used the 72 stop on that. And now I'm above that wave. See how they're trying to get above that wave? Okay. I know that mid's important. Okay. I didn't take that. I don't have my dumbs in trade mode yet. But that's the line. And then I'd have to figure out if we're going to break or not, right? So the other thing that I'm going to watch for here is see how we pushed up on the oscillator. I'm going to see if we can push to a new high, right? And I can tell you what I'm looking for. Speed bar fractal shift down like we got from this, but on a high with this diverging, right? I'm willing to attempt that for a roll back to the downside, okay? But so let me go through it again. Context on all three markets is balance, right? We're at the edge. And what am I looking for my highest odds trades? Fractal, speed bar, shift, flip. If I don't get all of those together in concert, I'm probably not taking a trade today, right? So why? Because I got tired from yesterday, frankly. So I'm looking to put them all together all at one time. Anyways, does anyone in the room have any questions? And thank you, Bill, for the help on that. Resident genius on the programming side. So we have the opposite from yesterday. It's slow and grindy, right? So that's my clue to relax. Somewhere in here, someone will goof up and give me a good entry, and I'll get paid. You don't have to be a speed demon to capture everything here, right? Big push up. Long chart. Well, right chart, but good push on delta on NQ. Okay, so see this on CL? Big push, right? See this? So you want to keep up with this. Look at the push over here. So put that in perspective. Big freaking push. See that? So guess what? I want to be highly freaking in tune to, right? Here is the base of this push up. All right, so I'm going to write in my notes. I want you to hear what I said. I'm going to write in my notes. Now I have a new marker, right? If I get a point of control underneath this right here, I'm going to be very attuned to the idea that we could get another roll to the downside underneath that, right? Number two, I'm pushing to a new high with divergence. I'm getting a speed bar, right? So now I have a decision to make. If I get the speed bar, am I going to take it or not? So this is always the question, right? Biggest wave up, right? Not delta divergence, but potential oscillator divergence, right? So what am I going to look for? I can tell you up here, if I get fractal, speed bar, shift down, I'm willing to take 2 stops on that setup, right? I'm going to take it. but it's got to set up first. I don't have anything to do right now, right? I just know that the potential's there, right? And then what am I going to do? I want fractal, speed bar, shift down, flip, or fractal, shift down, flip. I'm willing to take either one of them here for a roll to the downside, right? Next, once I get the mid of this done, I'm going to draw out the mid, and it looks like that's the step A that we just got right there. So it goes from here to here, right? I know I'm getting divergence. I can see it, right? Got the biggest push on top. I need to be underneath the mid, and I need a shift down, right? If it doesn't all conclude, and then I need these little yellow bars to flip to the downside, and then I need a little bit of luck, right? That's what I need. There's no question about it. It's what I'm looking for. Hopefully I will get it. Okay. And I have the qualities of pushing to a new high. And then the one thing you want to do here is you'd want to do this to get a quick picture of what you're doing, right? So you can see we're pushing to a new high, and you can see the divergence there just like you had over here, but it can take some time to work itself out up here before it gives a roll to the downside. And then you can see how poorly auctioned it was through here. So when you're doing this just on one chart, it's easier, right? And see how I had one component, but I don't have the second component. So there's nothing for me to do right now. And I'm above my biggest push down, right? Which was right here. So I have two different waves competing with one another. So number one, I've got to get back below this, right? Which doesn't mean I don't. So this is where people have a hard time. You're like, well, do I short it if it's above that? My key is to get the fractal, speed bar, shift down, flip, right? To get those three pieces. And then I'm going, well, I've got to get underneath this to make it work. And it might take one or two shots to make that happen. And eventually, if you watch it long enough, all those pieces come together at one time so that you can make a good trading decision. But it looks like everything's kind of rolling to the upside. And that never set up, so there's nothing for me to do. So I can just lay back now. This is easy. There's nothing for me to do, right? Until I at least, because even if I had everything else, if I don't get that fractal shift down, right, there's nothing for me to do. And then the other thing is keep up with your fractal trend line, right? That's the other thing that has to break. Anyways, anyone in the room have any questions? I hope that helped. We don't have anything major here. I'm looking at all three charts, right? ES, we're just retesting yesterday's high. NQ, still a long way off from yesterday's high. I don't even have a blue zone till all the way up at 74.2650. And CL is in a blue zone. And that 50-60 is above. And I'm hunting that down if they'll give me rejection out of that area. And the ES is pushing as well. None of which is a shock. So I felt it was more important for me to lay out what I'm looking for than it was to trade this morning. I've done that now. It doesn't get much better than that. Like, that's what I'm looking for is the algo to trigger me in, and then to get underneath those waves and to see the divergence on the oscillator and then the flip, right? And if it doesn't trigger me in, there's nothing for me to do, and I'm all right with that. That's a fate I can live with every time. And the best setups come when the divergence is huge on this, right? That's where your best setups come from. Bottom of the hour, since we're setting new highs, you would expect that IB high to get broken after the first hour, which would be pretty normal. And then we go to work from there. Looks like everyone's kind of sort of trapped. So we'll let it run for a couple minutes and see if anything sets up. I don't have anything on CL yet. I got to rework my CL charts. We're above the mid of the biggest push down. Interesting. If they can't push to a new high on this, See all the energy they've expanded, right? Potential divergence. Run into the mid. Push down. Mid of the wave. Top of the bottom, divergence. You get above the 61.99, they probably squeeze the daylights out of them back to the upside, right? So if you get below the mid and underneath this wave, right, probably push lower. Now you let the market tell you what it wants to do, right? There's nothing to do outside of that. There's your fractal shift up, pink bar. It's actually a pretty interesting combination. It never flipped negative to flip you back to positive, and that's because it's chopping in a top range, tight range, right? What you want it to do is actually break out of here, diverge, and create a spring where it traps back in and long liquidates it back to the downside. We actually want it to get above here and run these stops that are all sitting behind that swing to the left. That's what we want. Like, that's what you want to capture. Like, as soon as we get above it, that should capture it. If it's going to trend, it won't ever get back below 61.99. It'll just keep going. But if it springs above, traps all these people, you get a fractal shift down, speed bar like this, but off the top, right? That is very high odds of giving a great RR, right? It's not an automatic win rate, but if you get all those pieces put together with this, then that's where the RR comes from. So we'll see. We'll find out here in just a second what it wants to do. And just so you can see, going up just slightly higher, actually I'm going to run this on a 15 range bar. I'll just keep this over here till it loads because it'll be a minute. NQ testing prior day's high. ES, excuse me, not NQ. Again, I don't have anything in terms of zones here. CL is pushing into a blue zone and into its first 30-minute balance area, 62 to 62.10. So one could also argue if it gets above 62.05, 62.10 and holds 62, that you have further potential push. It's all lining up in the same place. That's the 50-60 from yesterday. So I think it's a hard place to trade, but we'll see if it sets up with the fractals. There it is. So here's the bigger picture. All right, it's easier to see this way. Okay, so now you see where we're coming from and what we're pushing back into. Where's the structure, right, that we're looking for? So this was the attempted breakout from before, right? It's essentially it's essentially the structure that we're pushing up into. That was the trap, right? You can see the divergence right in there. So now we're pushing back. So see how we're pushing back up on the 15 range, right? And see how the oscillator's nowhere close, right? So I'm going to watch that for a fractal speed bar shift down. We already got one this morning. But this whole area off to the left, all the way up to 62.40, there's structure there. And you can see for quite a few days now, that 62.40, 62.40 area, with the exception of a few pokes above, has served as pretty good resistance, right? So it's good to keep a bigger, longer term picture in there. And so I am looking for a setup in here if it'll set up, right? So I need all the pieces to come together, and you don't always get them. But if they do, I will take the trade, right? Flat divergence here. I see how we're not clearing the high, right? On NQ, on ES, divergence into the high. You see that? Pushing new highs. Not pushing new highs. Not yet, at least. All right. So in the meantime, I look for the setups that come along with that. Anyways, I'll be right back. I'm going to refresh my coffee, and hopefully we get a trade shortly after 9:30. That was the flip on CL right there. See that? Fractal speed bar, shift down. If I get a retest of that, damn, I didn't think we would do it that quickly. It's this bar right here. So I will attempt to short 61.90, stop 62.10. It's 20 cents. It ripped down all at once, right? So I don't quite have the cross yet. I can always wait for the cross. Or the other thing I can do is wait till we get underneath the mid of this. But that's usually pretty powerful. Again, it pushed back up right on the edge, right into that 50-60 area. That's what that rejection was. So let's see if they come back up one more time. Hopefully they do, and it's not swift. If it is swift, I'll miss it. So monitoring CL, no trade yet. Actually, I'm not going to pull the 60-finger trigger on the 61.90. Let's give it a minute. That was the first rejection out of the 50-60. It's a little too cute. So we'll see. Speed bar, shift up, right? Usually if you get behind that, right on top again, you can see we're pushing the new highs on divergence there. See that? Look at the new highs, and the oscillator can't make a new high. See that? Through there. So cross. So if I can get a shift down, or if I can get a close underneath this push up. Yeah, I know, Randy. There's a lot of cross currents right there. Like if you look at the chart, there's zones. There's the biggest wave. It's not an easy place to define. That's why I'm holding off. It's above the biggest wave, and then they matched that wave with the biggest wave up, right? So now you got to contend with this mid here for support, and then it's into the 50-60 on the daily. It's just a crappy. It's just not an easy setup area, right? So it's a maybe. Look at that. It's above the high of the day, but still in the structure off to the left. That's a pretty good way to trap traders, actually, is to push above that, make everyone think it's going to run up, and then trap them back down and push. But I'm not clear, so I'm just going to wait. And see why that's tricky, Randy? You're 100% correct. It's above the biggest wave, but it's into the mid. So now which one matters more, right? I don't have a good answer for it either. So what do? I watch, excuse me, I watch until I do have a good answer. That's what I do. Oh, wait. I needed that. It happens all the time. It's pretty normal, actually. Fractal shift down. We already flipped. There's nothing for me to do on NQ. And you got to get above you got to get past the mid of that last push up, which is this. I'd expect a response out of that. Often, but not always, Randy. Sometimes it chops. See how it came right out of that? And sometimes you have to guess that it's going to break, right? Sometimes it just doesn't. It just doesn't go. That's also a fractal trendline break on NQ. So I got to get some P&L on the books today. I don't have anything going yet, so we'll see. Hunting. Mean divergence near the top. If I get a fractal shift, speed bar shift down, I can get below the mid of this wave. Probably have a good trade to the downside. And understand, I'm all right not getting the trade if it doesn't set up. My goal here isn't to figure out every move. My goal here is to trade my process, right? It's the only goal. Sure look like a potential trap, except we lost the divergence on. We don't have a divergence yet on CL. And we are pushing down into the mid of the wave of the last push up. I would expect that 61.71, you can take that with a dime stop, should be able to survive for a long side trade. And I'm going to attempt that. I'm limit 61.71 with a 61 stop. Okay, it's not a fractal setup trade. It's just the mid of that last wave up. It can get busted through. Okay, so again, I'm limit 61.71. We'll see if they hit me for a counter rotation back up. I hear you, Randy, but I'm still all right with the trade. There's no problem with it. It either holds or it doesn't. I'm filled on the 61.71. It's a dime. So it's either going to hold that mid or it's just going to blast it, one of the two. So it usually won't get past the 62 retrace, right? If it does, you don't want it anyways. So I took the 61.71 long. I still got to get it to go to profit, right? So And that's not a normal, that's not the highest odds setup. It's just a trade, right? So in terms of 0 being the worst and 10 being the best, it's about a 5, right? It's just we should hold the mid and get a response first time in. And I'm willing to risk a dime on that. So it's actually not the top of it's the mid of the base. It's the mid of the biggest push up, Randy. It's not the top or the bottom. You see that, right? The wave goes from here to here, right? The wave down, this wave down goes from here to here. So it's the mid of the wave is what it is that I'm trading. And make sure we're talking about the same thing. I'm on a 7 range bar, right? Anyways, I made my decision. As everyone knows, I will not move my stop come hell or high water. So if you don't like the trade, you're break even on it right now. It's not a perfect setup by any stretch of anyone's imagination, right? It's just a setup that works very often. Okay, so I'm going to scoot this over. Everyone knows where my stop is. So if you see 61 get ticked, you know I got stopped, and I'm totally all right with that, right? I'm with you. Oh, I see what you're saying on the stop. I understand, but if it gets past the 50, I don't want it anyways. I don't care where the base of that is on this trade. If I get a negative bar with a point of control underneath there, okay, so Randy points out it has a very good point, right? Randy's saying that my stop on this trade comes at the base of this push up, but it's not a problem for me. Let me tell you why it's not a problem. When this trade works correctly, it just holds the mid of this retrace right here and goes. It doesn't ever get to the base. So the fact of the matter is if it gets to the base, there'd be a problem. And actually the backside test of that would probably be a short, quite frankly, right? So it doesn't matter to me that it's the base. I don't care if it stops and bounces right into that because I'm not willing to double the stop on the trade, right? So I want to make sure that makes sense to everybody. This trade, regardless of where the base of this wave is, I could care less because if it doesn't hold this and go, I don't give a shit anyways. I want to be out of it no matter what. I never want to spend more than a dime on this trade, right? Because it's a lower odds trade to begin with, right? And I'm not willing to adjust. So in order to get behind the base and make sure I stayed behind the base, I really need to be really all the way back here at 61.50. I'm not willing to burn 20 cents on this trade, right? So it's not a problem at all for me, right? Because I'm going to stop that if it doesn't hold. The setup is that it'll hold this completely, right? So the issue with the stop isn't going to be like, oh, I should have known that was the base. The issue is simply going to be, hey, I don't want to get stopped beyond this point anyways, right? So anyways, watching. And again, you can bail on that if you need to profitably. I'm still hanging out with it. And then again, the other thing that I'll note on this is that I could have already taken it out for approximately a nickel, I think, right? And I'm not. I'm holding out for 7 cents to 10 cents, somewhere in there, right? But you can take you got to note when your trades go profitable. If it's even by a few pennies, you got to note it, right? So anyways, that's the trade. We'll see if it works. It's just one of many, hopefully, for the day. Also notice how big the wave, see how big this delta push was off that, right? That was a big delta push into the mid, right? They couldn't get anything done. So still needs some work. I need these to flip back around, pushed up. But if it can hold the mid with that big delta push, right? And now I can get above the top of that delta push. So now my picture changes above 61.90, and I do have a real chance to run above. May not, right? May stop me. So I never know if the trade's going to work, and I'm not trying to figure it out. I'll just take them as they come along, right? I have not scaled a contract yet, nor will I, until I can get a push or I can get a stop. One of the two. Not on that trade. So there's on ES fractal shift down, and you're about to get flipped to the downside. I'm not taking that short. All right, I know what I want in terms of the speed bar. Plus, we've come all the way back up, down on NQ to collect some energy. All right, so I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes. I still think there's up, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't have location on NQ or on ES in terms of the daily chart. Again, if you're in the CL trade and you don't like, for whatever reason under the sun, right, bail on it while you're profitable, not while you're down. On the other hand, you could argue that we're trapped back in on CL. That's the other argument here. So I'm going to take some off here at 76 cents. I missed it. Trying again, 76 cents. That's not a fill. Sorry, I'll turn that off. 76 cents done. Okay, for a nickel. And now you can choose to write it. You can choose to write it, or you can choose to bail on it. I'm gonna take another scale here at 61.81 if they'll give it to me. That's a dime. So Randy, see why I didn't care about the base? It was just the mid is what I needed to hold. All right. Thank you, sir. Again, to point that out. Randy's point was valid. The stop would have sucked at the base, but this always has to be a dime stop for me. All right. Always. 81's on tap. 81's filled. Wow, they got me. So I only got a little bit left. Stop to break even now. Okay. I have a little P&L on the board. So a nickel and a dime so far. And obviously the 71 cent tick will stop me out, and I'm fine with that. That's just a little bit left. And that's about a 5 out of a 10 in terms of setups. See how we've pulled back on NQ? We've just consolidated. The oscillators come all the way around. Come all the way around. If I get a speed bar shift up flip over here, that would be for continuation up into London close. Okay, so I am hunting that. I'm having to play that against, I'm getting divergence here, right? So the best setup is all the way back over here, right? Around 855. We didn't get any divergence, but you did get the cross. And after you had the cross, I just didn't have anything. Like all of them were mediocre entries, right? Once we got over this wave, it was over. See how that was the last down wave, big down wave. Short squeezing right on top, consolidating. There was no push on the bottom. As you can call that the push. Once we got over that, chopped and pushed. There was no clean setup for me. That's all right. It's part of the way the day is folding out. So I'm hunting that. And that's the mid again on NQ. You see they took it right to the tick for a pretty nice trade right there. So that's what I'm hoping for with CL as well. So we'll see. And I think I have my stop stopped. So done on the trailer on CL, and we'll see where we go from there. Good. I would have been disappointed if I didn't get any P&L on the table today, so that's a good thing. And I didn't have a whole lot of conviction on the upness there, right? So a dime for a dime is not bad. Meaning I had a dime of risk. So the nickel and the dime were fine to take off. I probably spooked myself a little bit while I was in the trade. I'll be right back, excuse me. That CL may slide up again. Watching it. Wow. Talk about day and night from yesterday to today. You went from blindingly fast to nothing. Remember, the lack of speed puts pressure on the sellers, not the buyers. So it's going to have to change for the sellers to make anything work. Six minutes. Algo is very common over the next 6 minutes. They can really rack you on what's otherwise normally a good trade. And guys, I think on YouTube, that's where I'm going to cut it off. We are hunting edges today and see if we can get people caught in traps taken the other way. It's long and short. So anyways, trade well. If you'd like to come visit the room, send me an email, tradeandperform@gmail.com. It's in the description of the video. And if you like the video, please hit the like button. It helps me out. And trade well, right? Every day is a little bit different. So make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing. Everyone's comfortable with profit. Make sure you're comfortable with the losses, right? So anyways, talk to you later. And we'll be back in the morning.